Hello and welcome to ITBS Media. In this tutorial we are continuing our project. If you have been following, the first tutorial was titled how to create a login page that opens another window in Tkinter. In that particular video we created a login page and it opened into another window, but the window we left it blank. So we returned and we titled the second video how to create table using TreeView in Tkinter Python. So in that second video we continued, and in the second window of the project we created a table for financial record of students. That's the records of the first name, last name, student ID, the tuition, the out-of-pocket payments made by students, the financial aid given, and refund. So we have the table there, but we need to be able to input data into the table. So today we will be looking at how to add record to TreeView table in Python Tkinter. So that's what we are doing today, how to add record to the table we have created. So if you have not looked at the first video and the second video, I will advise you go down to the description of this video and you will see the link to the first and the second video. I will tag them. I will put number 1, 2, and this one will be 3. So if you follow in that order, you'll be able to replicate the project. Okay, so let's start by looking at our table. That's the username we gave, and we use the password as the default password. Okay, here is the table we created in the second tutorial class, and we want to be able to input data into this record, into this table now. So that's what we're going to be doing. So the next thing we do now is let's create input widgets. Our input widget, we have label and entry boxes. So let me see, create input widgets. So the first, since we have our SID as the first one, same thing we're going to have here. So we create our label, tk.label underscore SID equal tk.label, and where do we want it to be? It has to be in the form window, same window where the table is. So form underscore window. And what should the text be? Student ID. Okay, we have that. Let me just copy this to make our journey fast. Alright, so that's for the labels, and for the entry we now have a entry. Oh, what did I just do? No, student ID. Okay, thought I want to. Okay, so we need our entry box now. Okay, that's just the label that will be on top of it. Okay, the entry underscore SID equal tk.entry, and that will also be in the form window. Form underscore window. Okay, so let's have that for each of them. So we start doing house cleaning after that. If you like copying and pasting like this, you must be very diligent in putting the right information there, otherwise you will miss some of these steps. So this one is SID. So the next one, let me list it out. The next one is FN. So we have FN for the label, and we have FN for the entry, followed by LN and LN for entry. Okay, after LN is what? TT, which stands for total tuition, and I think OP, yeah, OP follows. OP means out of pocket. How much did the student pay out of pocket without financial aid? Then FA, how much is awarded to the students in financial aid? FA. So I need one more entry box. Alright, so what would that be? That's our RF. Okay, so let's start changing the label, otherwise everything will just read student ID for us. Let's just play with it. Let's see. Okay, it's not going to show since we have not put the grid, so there's no need going there. Okay, so now let's change the labels. This is FN, that's first name. Remember, we already have our table, so that's not it. It's not the table we are creating, it's the input box that we are creating now. So the label for the input box for LN is last name. The last name is what we are doing now. Last name and total tuition. And next we have out of pocket payment. Financial aid awarded. And finally, refund. Okay, I guess we're good to go for that side. So the next thing that we need to do is to now define a button. We can come back to do that. Let's go sequentially, and let's create let's position the entry box and the label. Position the input labels, and entry boxes. So that's what we want to do next. Okay. So the first one we have, you can actually do a kind of duplicate here. You can duplicate our, since we're going to be typing all this somehow. I'm going to put it right here. Okay, now instead of having all these, we just do for the first one, and we'll be able to copy and paste it into the remaining. So from here up to this one, just dot grid. Where do we want it to be? Let's put it in row. Remember, we made our table to a height of 18, so let's put this in 21. Let's say 21 for the label. So our row will be row equal 21, and the column let's make that column 1. Okay, so therefore means that if the label is up and is in row 21, then the entry box, we want it to be below the label, so that the name will be up, the title will be up, and the box will be below. So this one obviously will be row 22. Yes. Grid row equal 22, and it has to maintain the same column since it's going to be directly under the label. So column equal 1. So we're going to have similar thing for all of them, except that their column will change. So I'm going to get this for all the labels. So what I'm doing now is I'm positioning all the labels. Oh, you know, gets to where it should be. The grid. Okay, that should take care of it, except that we have duplicates. So if you look at it, it's only the labels I'm doing now because that's what I copied up there. So don't be confused if you're looking at me copying, and so I'm just doing the labels. I'll come back to do the entry box. Okay, so now we have the entry box, the labels as in row 21, all of them in row 21. We have not positioned the entry boxes. I'm going to try and see if I can run it, and we'll see how it will look before we continue. Okay, this is how it is now. I'm going to close it out and run it again, and let's see what will happen. Front desk. Okay, see, we have our student ID. That's the only one we have that is complete. You see, others are still not here because we only have grid for the student ID and the entry box. So by the time we will put grid for the other inputs boxes, they will all show up here. So it's the first one that we have done. That's the only one that is showing up now. You can type in it. Okay, so I'm going to close it out and we'll continue. So now that we have grid for this, let's go to 22. Okay, that's where the entry box will be. So the same for the entry box here. Dot grid. Okay, I think I will pick this one with the dots so that I won't be having much problem. Okay, for the entry box here, entry box, get your position. You also get your position. Okay. And finally, okay, so now if we run it, everything will be on 1. So it's only the first input box that we show, because everything is still on the same column. So we're going to be changing it now. This is 2, and the label will be 2, column 2, and this also will be 2. This will be 3, and the label and the entry box will be in column 3, column 4, and column 4. It's just like if you put papers, stack of paper on one another. If they are, let's assume you have about 100, it's gonna everything will be in one space. You occupy one space. That's exactly what we have seen earlier when it was only the first entry box that was showing, because everything was on column 1. But now that we are changing it, everything should show up after that. 5, 6, and 7. Okay, let's go back and this one does not have grid. That's grid. The grid. Let me run it again and see if we have. Okay. See, now we need to reposition, and the reason why we're having this is because of the label up here. That's why we have it scattered like this, but we'll move it back so you can always adjust. That's the power of the grid. If you position it, this one now is like occupying column 0, so that's why all these other ones are moving this way. So what we do is we expand the table itself. So let's go back and do a few things. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we're good in what we have done so far. Okay, let's change this one to 1. Let's see what impact that will make. Columns. Okay, and we say our table is in row 2, column 1. Can remove that. Okay, let me go back and run it again and see. Yeah, because I changed that, you see. So you're learning that you define the specific location you want any object to be. When you're using grid, Pack will put it in the middle and to stack it one on top of the other. So, but grid, you specify the position. Okay, so we have these boxes here now, but it's not still positioned the way we want it to be. So we will have to adjust it. Row 2, let's use column 0. Row 2, column 0 instead of column 1. Let's use column 0 for the table, and instead of this, let's just say column span. Column span, let's use let's try 20. Okay, now what we're trying to do is stretch our table beyond just 1 or 2 columns, so that all the inputs will be well positioned. Front desk. Let's say how far. Okay, now because I've stretched the table, now you can see that the inputs boxes are now better positioned. So the next thing we want to do is we want to put a button to add the records. For example, if you put one here and you say the first name is John and the last name is Olu, then the tuition and things like that, there is a need for a button to put that put the record into the table. So let's go and create the button now. So that's the next thing we do. Okay, So we create our button. Let's create our button here. JK.button. Where do we want it to be? Remember, it has to be in the form window. That same window the table is located. And what should be the text of the button? The text should be add record. So we have that. And remember, that's just a button and it has a name, but something must trigger it to perform the function. That is what is called command. So we're going to create a function and point that function to this command, so that when you click on the button, it triggers the function to run and perform that action of inputting the record into the table. So let's call the function we're going to create add student record. Okay, so we have that. You see, it's showing error now because there is nothing like that. Well, let me position it first. Grid. So we put it in row. What's our row for the entry box? The last row for the entry box. Okay, that's 22. So we can position this one in 23. Row equal 23, and the column equal. So we have a stretch between column 1 and 7. So let's put it in 4. Let's put it in 4. Sure. Okay, so what I will do next is, if I'm not ready to define the function or to use the function, I can just go ahead and say and create a define add student record. Add student record. If you put this pass, that should take care of it for the moment. You see, it has removed the error indicator, showing now that it has seen add student record. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the function. Once we create the function, then we should be good to go, and we should be able to add our records to the data, to the table. So this may be a little bit longer than the previous video, because now we have created the entry boxes, and for the function that we input that we add the record. So